Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the RHAP B&B for week 11 of Survivor 47. My name is Mike Bloom. I am joined by someone who knows how to sort her balls properly, Liana Boraas. Liana, how are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Yes, we're busy. We're sorting balls by color. No shape or size this time. Very interesting. But no, look, we had an episode of Survivor. Kyle, the challenge beast extraordinaire, finally goes home. Looked like our guest was cheering for that outcome. Let's find out if he was actually
No, that's not what I was cheering for at all. I was cheering for Survivor. No.
uh,
Yeah, listen, Dwight Moore, who's our guest,
Kyle.
he's just coming in with that Kyle, post-boot mindset, right? Of like, bring it in, everybody. Isn't
Everybody
Survivor
come in.
great? It's the agony of defeat, but it's more about the thrill of everyone else's victory.
Did I cheer at time? I might just be behind you guys for a second or two. That's hilarious. That's what the timing was on y'all's end. I was cheering when you said Survivor. What do you mean? I was cheering for when he went home. No. Kyle, no. This is all looking wrong.
That's
All
okay.
right, well,
You and Mike have that in common.
everyone as well.
Oh my God, that's a great way to make
The
his
timing was
reintroduction in the
great.
form of Dwight. Well, I don't know. I ended up posting the Kyle boot interaction with everybody, and listen, it got a fair mix of those on the Dwight accidental side of things, of being like, boo to this, and some people being like, as Gabe said, I think sincerely on the jury, this is a hero.
Yeah, a hero.
No, yeah, that was. I
Okay.
love that. It was funny, like the online reaction. People were just like, "How dare he go out like that?" Man, like, why are people upset? People are hugging. Like, he's just a good sport about losing. How dare? Like, some people are upset about that, which is crazy to me. But
Mhm.
whatever. We'll get to that. We'll talk about that later.
Well, I do wonder if part of it was, the culture that's set of that season, right? So the season sets the norm of how they're going to choose to behave, and perhaps salty exit seems to be part of the criteria. So
Salty.
salty exits. So if anybody deviates from that, then they're the weird one. Even though Kyle's trying to do, good game, we're all on the same team kind of energy.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I saw a
Hmm.
response to, again, this video that I posted that I think is what I sort of vibe with the most, which is the idea that for me, the reaction doesn't matter. It's more so the fact that it's genuine. I think where a lot of people maybe had some detractions from seasons in the new era that were prior to this as to like, that everyone in a row pretty much did the sort of good game, I'll see you on the jury, et cetera, mindset, with maybe a couple of exceptions of like pulling out a character impression here or there. And so I think it's not only the consistency, but maybe this idea that people feel like when you're doing that, it isn't necessarily what you're feeling in that moment. It's kind of putting on that brave face. That said, I do believe Kyle's authenticity in that moment. Like, I do believe that despite the fact that this man's dreams of $1 million that could change his family's lives was crushed, he just doesn't have it in him to necessarily disparage or ignore anybody on the way out. He still wants to not only bring them in, but then also kind of inspire them with the
Mhm.
words of everyone who near unanimously voted him out.
It is Kyle is authentically himself. That's
Hmm.
the energy that I get from Kyle. Like he will just I know he said, look, I've got some capacity to lie, and I'm sure he does, but especially in this moment, I do believe that it was all very genuine and that he means what he says when he goes around and makes everybody, including Jeff Probst, give him a hug.
Yeah. Dwight, give us your thoughts
I
about
love that.
season 47 so far, because we're nearing the end game. We were talking about this before we came on here, that actually next week, due to this weird two-hour finale instance, is the last quote-unquote regular episode of the season. So we're really barreling towards the end here. What have been your thoughts on Survivor 47 through 11 weeks?
I've really been enjoying the season so far. Like everyone has had like I like everyone's story so far because like their position in the game. Everyone's playing super hard. I really enjoy that. I'm curious to see how this end game's going to play out, especially with the current state of advantages. But we have Sue and Rachel with idols. Rachel has the block vote as well. So I'm not sure how things are going to play out, especially with this underdog alliance that has the strict majority and all the advantages and is seemingly unstoppable. But yes, the underdogs. I'm curious to see how that plays out, how they'll turn on each other, because that's going to happen at some point if there's going to be any hurt feelings. But the people who are left out of the actual final three that consists of even all the underdogs, some, one of the I guess only Sam or Genevieve is left outside. That if one of them sneaks to the end or gets dragged along as a potential GOAT, because while they say they have all the power at this point, no one's including them in play-ins, and someone can make the argument like it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And the end game for Sam and Genevieve so far has been everyone else is controlling their game, telling them to vote a certain way. And it's hard to really say you made a move at the end when no one's including you and no one wants to do anything because you made your threat level so big earlier on in the game. And in Sam's case, he didn't really make his target big at the merge. It was pre-merge and his target blasted over, and then he's been shut out post-merge in terms of like strategic impact. So I'm curious to see how this really plays out. But I have been enjoying the season a lot. I'm intrigued on how this end game is going to play out for all the players.
Well, I think that that's a great point, is this idea of this shifting biggest threat, right? Because that's what we've seen all of the votes really play off of who's the biggest threat. It was Sierra because of Sierra and Sam. Then it's Saul because, Saul's a big threat. And you just sort of move down the line, and that those threats can change. I mean, Genevieve, at least based on what we saw, was not considered this big threat until all of a sudden she orchestrates the Saul vote. And now she's up at the top of the target list. But that could continue to shift and continue to change, right? Maybe one of these underdogs all of a sudden starts to get the perception of, well, of the underdogs, they're the biggest threat of the underdogs. So now they need to go. And potentially we do have a situation where, Sam or Genevieve or someone else is able to sort of continue to go along just because this constant shifting of threats. Because there's an argument where Sam is no longer a threat anymore because of Dwight, what you're saying. He has no agency, he hasn't won anything. You can make an argument that he's no longer a threat anymore. So that's why it makes it so interesting and so fluid, because it does feel like it's constantly shifting.
Yeah, because that is sort of the weird folly and one of the many paradoxes that exist in Survivor. Why are you a threat? Because we say you are. Like, sometimes there isn't necessarily a quantification as to the qualification as to why you're considered a threat. Sometimes in Sam's case, it was like, well, you came in as the power player of Gata, and now you have, even though we voted out your ally, they're on the jury now, so maybe they'll vote for you. There's all these complexities contained therein, which is like why I love, again, the final tribal council, the jury format so much. I mean, it's tough. I see everything you're saying, Liana. It's a smidge of wishful thinking. It does make me a little nervous just because, 5 versus 2 is so easy. I think the way that things could get blown apart on paper would be if one of them wins immunity and the other one fakes an idol, because it really does seem like with Sue and Rachel both having idols, they're not hiding another one in the game right now. And that's the other thing as well, to the point that Dwight made, is that we have now kind of come upon a situation where I think even in that case, let's say like, okay, we have this alliance of 5. They split their votes 3-2 between Sam and Genevieve. If I'm Sam and Genevieve, I'm like, great, I just need to flip one person over and then we'll make it our own 3-2-2, sort of like a Suri Heroes versus Villains style, until Rachel anonymously pulls out the block a vote and decides like, nope, I'm just going to make sure that this is the thing to do and, really seal someone's fate. And listen, this episode I would probably call the snooziest of the season so far, and what has been a very solid season. There was, I think, some stuff watching back, especially the second time, that I did relish a bit more in the first half hour. Things like, we'll talk about this more, like Genevieve's really interesting reaction to realizing her feelings are hurt from hurting other people's feelings, in a manner of speaking, and how instead of using that to be like, no, I'm not going to do it anymore, more so being like, well, I'm just not going to make personal connections, so then I won't feel as bad in slitting people's throats. But to have that sort of round robin scene between the 3 biggest threats as to how they're handling this position that they're in, like, I do not throw the result or really anything to do with this episode at the feet of the players or production. Like, this is just how Survivor is sometimes. I would say 80% of the time in a game like Survivor, the optimal move for most of the people in the game is to make probably the most boring move, right? Is to like stay the course. I mean, we can certainly talk about the merits, the numbers, if you will, about Genevieve versus Kyle. I still think it was the right move at the end of the day. And so it's one of those things where when you see him lose immunity, then you're like, all right, the die is pretty damn cast here. And so it was absolutely no surprise at all. But, even if this does move forward as kind of just a clean sweep of these threats, then the next matter is going to become like, who's the 3 and the 5, if there is one, and how's that going to manage and whatever this endgame looks like.
And something I want to touch on, because Liana said earlier, like with the whole thing of who's going to be the biggest threat of these underdogs when it happens. In all season, I've been super impressed with this player, Caroline. It has impressed me so much throughout the season with her insights about the game, what she's doing, and everything. Especially this episode too. She's like, as soon as Rachel reveals that block vote, Caroline's first thing is, great. That's going to make her a big threat, which is going to be a shield for me. I can maybe take her out and take credit for that, and propel myself to the win at the end. Throughout this season, Caroline has had like amazing street insights, has had a lot of good connections that allowed her to stay under the radar despite having a lot of strategic prowess. She hasn't had her name written down once alongside Rachel, I believe. There's only 2 left without any votes cast for them. So I'm curious to see how it plays out between them. Of course, Rachel has the idol and the block vote. So, just looking at it from that perspective, Rachel probably has the hand up in whenever they have to go head to head, if they ever do. But I can see Caroline possibly taking that shot. And if Rachel realizes, she can always flip it back against Caroline with, the plethora of advantages that she has at her disposal. So I'm curious to see how that does play out. But like I said, Caroline's been really impressing me with her gameplay so far, despite being kind of more quiet in terms of like the edit and showing it. Like she's been honestly I've liked her the most as a player this so far, genuinely.
I was nervous for her and the relationship with Sue because we have seen a Sue scorn, and Sue does not respond well to people going against her wishes. But Caroline, I think, really handled it so well in appealing to Sue at the very beginning of the episode and essentially laying out the logic. Look, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I'm feeling, like seems to listen to Sue. So I thought that was such a natural, like really talented recovery. And because there was this shot of Sue or Caroline hugging Sue, and Sue is just there, just like,
yeah, she like was putting her arm around her and putting her head on her shoulder, and Sue's like, I'm just not that into you. But yeah, I mean, for what
I'm
it's
not
worth,
having it.
Yeah, she benefited from a couple things. I think the fact that her relationship with Sue definitely very different than her relationship with Kyle. Now, look, due to the holiday, I have yet to have the chance to talk with Kyle. Suffice it to say, I'm going to try to get some information from the Kyle perspective as to like how one-sided this was, what was the dynamic like. But I think what also helps is that Caroline made a move against Gabe, but not necessarily Sue. This is not. If Caroline wrote Sue's name down, I agree, Liana. I think she would have like thrown her backpack in the fire, a la Teeny. Like she would be absolutely dead to her. At the same time, I think Caroline did a really great job of vocalizing her logic behind it, which is this idea of like, we were being perceived and I was perceiving that Gabe was making all the decisions for us. And I don't know about you. I did not necessarily come out here to have someone dictate my game for me. I think that speaks really nicely to Sue's POV as well, about the fact that one of the reasons why she has this grudge for Kyle is she said, remember, like, I grew up in this industry where all these guys were keeping me down and telling me what to do. Like, Caroline's kind of able to use that logic in a way. And to your point, Dwight, as well, about the whole Rachel thing. Yeah, it's really interesting. And I think if it does turn out that these underdogs are just going to kind of run it down, this is the most captivating part to me about the end game, especially now that a little tidbit about Andy and Sue being perceived as goats maybe doesn't necessarily bode terribly well for Andy's Phoenix from the Ashes edit. It's this idea of if and when Rachel and Caroline turn on each other, when does it happen? How does it happen? And ultimately, who wins? Because I do not see an instance outside of like, one of them being sent into fire making and winning at Final Four that they would sit at the end together. And I think the two of them occupy such a similar space in terms of story and in terms of edit that it'll be interesting to see who takes their place and how does that become the major narrative moving forward.
Yeah.
I think you also have to look at Teeny too. Mike, you mentioned this last week, but Teeny just being such a big social threat with people on the jury, and even looking at some of the word association with Teeny, I mean, everybody is obsessed Teeny. And that has to be running through their minds as well. So I think we're not only looking at a Rachel v. Caroline face off. I think that you have to throw Teeny in there as the other threat because, okay, let's assume Sue and Andy are the GOATs. Well, then that leaves 3, other players who are potentially vying for that winner spot, assuming that, everything, the underdogs all kind of stay together. So I would throw Teeny in there as well as a potential threat to win. I mean, from their perspective, right, that they need to take out.
As of the jury makeup right now, do y'all think it would vote more based on like the connection they have, like personal, social, or would it be more like a strategic, who made the best moves, I care about nothing else kind of jury? Because I can't really tell right now how this jury would actually vote, how they would swing.
The community. It's who contributed the most to the community.
I think that they seem like a jury that could be swayed. Like a la 42. Like they could go in with a certain perception, and then if someone clearly articulates their gameplay, I think that they would be willing to be swayed over potentially. But it's so tough to tell, right?
Well,
you just have no idea.
Especially if the next 2 boots are Sam and Genevieve, because again, I think how these underdogs were able to solidify themselves as saying, no matter what, these are the 3 big threats that are left. And as Rachel kind of verbalizes, if it indeed is true that like then the top 5 make it and it's the game kind of opens up in terms of winner odds, then yeah, I agree with Liana. I think a lot more could get swayed. Maybe not even a final tribal council, but like the stuff you do at 5 and 4. That's when you kind of brand yourself and make your mark. And as much as Andy had talks about in this episode, like maybe I don't want to get rid of Kyle and I'm going to try to make my mark here. It seems like the time to do it would be to kind of clear those larger threats, however they may be, out of the way. And then you emerge as the big threat right there at the end. Now, look, didn't exactly work out for your old pal Jesse, Dwight, when that ended up happening with him. But I do think it'd be an interesting thing to do once they sort of clear out, assumingly, the next 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's similar to like Jesse bring up there. I was thinking about Rachel's blockable advantage or how she could use that, because there's the word you talked about, right? At 7, you could use it to block one of Sam or Genevieve, block a shot in the dark plane, also block the potential flip of someone to their side, because then they can't do anything. Even if you have someone flip, you have 4 against 2 on both. If you block one, guaranteed. You know who the traitor is. You take out one Sam or Genevieve, cool, no problem. But also you could save it for 6, and then use that block a vote in a way to just pull 3 people on your side, blindside anyone else you want. Because then you just take your after the last 5, grab 2 people with yourself. That's 3. Only 5 votes if you use someone to block a vote. You maybe keep one of the big threats in, whatever. Like I would say like Genevieve did a big move. Sam kind of had. I'd say like you leave Sam possibly, and then just blindside one of your own members at with 6. Use a block a vote. And then what? You have 3 there. Rachel has her idol that no one knows about. So then you can save yourself at 5 after making a big move. Similar to Jesse, you're probably at final 4 as the biggest threat to win. Just win a challenge or fire making, and you probably win at the end there. So I'm curious to see which move she does, because like I think the 6 one is a lot more offensive. Put yourself out there to win. 7 is more defensive in a way. Like cool, it's just keep the 5 together. But I think if I'm Rachel there, I want to save it for 6 and stand out against the rest of the 5 right then and there. Maybe you bring like people you bring along to your side. Maybe you bring the Sue and Andy. This people seen as the ghost to your big move. They might want to go for it, try and boost their resume, not knowing you have an idol to save yourself at 5, because they might think, okay, we'll do this with Rachel, take Rachel out afterwards, and claim it for ourselves. So that'd be Rachel's path to the end with that block a vote. But that's the riskier play. But I'm curious to see which one she does, the 7 or 6, because you can only use it at those 2 tribals.
Well, I think you have to start thinking, if you're one of those underdog players, the likelihood of you sitting next to the 2 other perceived GOATs, being Andy and Sue, the likelihood of that happening is so low. And even then, you're making an assumption that the perceived is GOATs, but you never know. So you do have to start thinking about, all right, I need the time for being the low poppy now has passed, right? Like we're not going to do the Genevieve, we're not going to do it too early, right? We're going to wait, and we need to do it at exactly the right time in order to make that impact, show that you are a power player, and show that you have something that you can justify at the end. So the question is where does that happen? How does that happen? And if you're someone like Caroline and you have no advantages, right? You now have to start thinking about, okay, this is all now based on my social relationships, and how and who am I going to use in order to make that move, or, a series of at least small moves to justify something, right? You can't just the whole time be the low poppy.
I gotta say, I love these advantages being anonymous. Because we.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is they really, I love how they're forcing it on them as well, of like, since everyone is telling everyone else that they have idols, now you can't. I mean, I guess you could. Saul does do it with Rachel, but like, at least initially, you can't do it. And it's interesting as well in that Rachel, like, pretty much gives up the anonymity immediately. And again, that's always going to come when you do a journey. Like, there's just so many eyes on you that's just going to be like, yep, I actually got this thing. But it would have been really interesting if she was able to pull a Marianne at the final tribal council and be like, oh, and hey, remember that time, Sam, you couldn't vote? That was me. I did this thing. Because again, that would be such like a big card to play. But now something that someone else can play is, yeah, well, then Rachel told us, so we were able to plan around that and use that to the Alliance's betterment. So it wasn't necessarily something to push her individual game forward, to Dwight's point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, even like if Rachel comes back and like keeps with the story of like I got nothing, and then what her vote still appears at tribal, she's kind of cooked. So like at some point, you kind of have to tell your alliance like, yeah, I kind of got something, because there's a world where all 8 votes get revealed. People are like, yeah, Rachel, about that vote you lost that tribal, explain that. So I do like that she did tell a few people. In this regard, given her lie, if she did a different lie, maybe she get away with it. But the lie she told is easily verifiable later down the line, within the right setup. So
just going on a journey in general is just such a catch-22 situation. Like, I don't even, at this point, I don't even know what the quote-unquote right move is to do anymore. Like, I don't know, do whatever you feel is right. Like, people aren't gonna believe you. People
there's
might
no
believe
right
you.
answer.
I kind of feel like it's actually probably the way Rachel went about it is probably the Occam's razor simplest way to do it, which is to the overall group, lie that you lost your vote, and then go to your like specific closest allies and tell them, hey, I found something. Like, I think that is the happy medium of, it's not exactly vast public information, and you sort of broker that bond, that exclusivity, by telling people, hey, I really value us. That's why I'm telling you that I actually have this thing. Because I mean, it's tough because you have someone like Sam, and we'll get into this, how lovingly ridiculous that journey was, that he's like, this sounds too stupid for it to be real, when like actually about 87% of that was real. They actually did have to push weights into the ocean. Like, if people are going to doubt it regardless, you might have an idea in your head of like, well, then I'll just tell them the truth so I come across as honest. But we've seen time and time again now through 7 seasons, just how more often than not, and Dwight, you can speak to this firsthand, that it just puts a target on your back no matter what. And the assumption that you have something is almost always there, unless you have a paper or like they show you footage from Video Village to the rest of the tribe of, hey, watch them fail this challenge and not get a vote.
Even when you do. So for first-hand experience, I went on the journey on day 2 on my season, and I lost my vote. Came back with a paper that said I lost my vote. Cody didn't believe me for several days afterwards, still thought I had something. So, like I said, the fact of you going on the journey alone is enough to target back, even if you have tangible proof that you failed on the journey. But like the other folks on the journey too, Noelle, Owen, James's journey, Noelle got the advantage, and they kept it amongst themselves to everyone else in the game. Like, it didn't leak to people until we hit the merge. So like on their tribe, they did a good job also, and that's why we hit the merge. I was like, I want to work with these 2 people because they kept my ally secret safe. Even though there was like some heat on Noelle for a little bit, she played off on Bessie. Everyone's kind of believed her that she had nothing. So that was nice. I'm not sure how the third journey really played out. Well, actually, everyone knew that people lost their votes. So people knew Gio had it when he went home, because Jesse and Janine publicly said I lost my vote, so we figured out what happened. Like, different seasons have different journeys. Like, ours had actual tangible proof of someone failing, which I think they learned that kind of removes the drama from it when people can show you, hey, I failed the journey. Here's a piece of paper that proves it to me. So they've learned where it has to just purely be a social game. But it's kind of funny, like Sam saying, yeah, this is BS. I'm just like, that was literally the truth. That was super funny to me. I cracked him seeing that. He kind of contradicting again.
That's very exciting for 49, because now someone's going to be like, oh my God, there was this giant sled that I had to put a bunch of presents on for the early Christmas drive amongst all the Fijian locals. And they're like, well, they did do that one saw trap where they pushed weights into the water. So like, I can't exactly completely discount it. It really just opened the limits of imagination as to what people can lie about or believe.
Exactly.
I love
also,
the idea,
like,
though.
one thing I'll point out is Rachel volunteering to. Oh,
no, go ahead, Dwight.
I'm
Rachel volunteering.
So much. You go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So
the
the thing about weights is why would she make that? Like, who comes up with this stuff? I mean, obviously the Survivor challenge team comes up with this stuff, but like, if I were to go out there and make up a challenge, I'm not making up. I was on a barge and I had to throw timed weights into the ocean that pulled a table if I didn't do it on time. Like, no, that's so creative. I would just assume that's like, that's too weird to just make up.
That's valid. That feels like
Future
something you
Survivor
come up.
players. Yeah, I think future Survivor players come up with something super outlandish in advance and just tell the story when you go to Journey. Like, come up with the most outlandish BS possible, and people will just believe it. Because
That's the thing.
at this point,
yeah.
they're going for broke on these journeys.
Yeah.
No, it feels like such like a day 2 journey idea, right? Of like, I'm not malnourished, I'm not exhausted, I've still got caloric energy to expend. Let me come through with this big fish story, as opposed to day 18, day 19. Like, you can't exactly spin together much of a yarn at that point. You can barely get the 2 strands of yarn together in the first place. I adore this so much. This was so sinister. Like, just the fact of watching the podium get dragged off like we're in some low budget community theater production, and like the stage crew is off stage with a fishing line trying to pull this off to make it feel like Paranormal Activity was so much fun. And listen, we don't know if Rachel was able to like snatch it in the nick of time, but no matter what, like the pure existential threat of at any time, this can get dragged away from you and sink to the bottom of the ocean, never to be seen again. Like, I think what you do is maybe do a bit of like the Joker in The Dark Knight Rises. I think next time, do a little Mission Impossible trail of gunpowder leading up to the advantage. And like, if you don't get there in time, it just bursts into flames.
The advantage being like lowered into a fire, and if you don't complete it, just burns.
Yes,
Honestly,
exactly.
Production, please do that.
Yes.
But no, like that was. Also, I liked the puzzle. That was a fun one. Like like someone on Reddit made a replica of it. So that was just fun to do. I think that was really. How much time did she have? Did they say on the show? I didn't catch that. Did it just say until it sinks?
Yeah, whatever the equivalent of 4 weights worth of rope was.
Okay, scientifically accurate. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, no, that was I love that. Also, like, going back to what I was saying before about the Rachel choosing to go, because it was like Sam, Genevieve, and Rachel, was it, that wanted to go on it, if I recall? And Rachel putting herself forward for that. Once again, no one else really stepped up to do that of this Underdogs Alliance. Rachel stepped up to do it, even though it could put a target on her back and succeed in getting that advantage too, which is something I hope she really talks about later on. If she has the opportunity to say, like, what sets me apart from this rest of the 5, she can say, no one else stepped up to do this. I did when we had this alliance. So that's that's another thing, to consider. For another thing, Caroline probably needs to take care of Rachel before it gets too late. Of like, Caroline seeing all this, and other people might be seeing it too, but they gave Caroline the credit for noticing it and saying, like, this is going to be a threat. This is a shield for me. But I hope she doesn't keep her too long, because once again, Caroline did say shield. That implies I want to keep her for a bit longer, which could backfire. But
It was from Rachel a defensive play almost more than anything. At least that's how it was sold to us, that it was more, I just want to prevent these other people from getting it. It's not even necessarily about me getting it. But she did step up and sort of take that risk. And so it's going to be interesting, because you really are walking that fine line. Don't be too tall, but you also need enough to be able to argue your point. So maybe Rachel is really like hit it exactly correct, and we'll be able to argue for that if she can make it to the end. I think that would be a good thing for her resume.
Right. I think she's able to say, at least at this point, oh, I went on a journey, but it was to help our alliance. Oh, I got this advantage, but I told you all about it. So I'm growing, but there's not so much miracle grow in there that you really need to cut me off right now at this moment. I mean, it was really interesting also that I believe she's in 2 final 3 alliances, it seems, within this 5, or at least these scenes of, I feel good about this group. It was her, Teeny, Andy, and then her, Caroline, Sue, which would also be really interesting if the Underdogs were to make it to the final 5, which would be that she would essentially be like the Kathy Vavrick O'Brien here of picking which one to go with. Now, this makes it a little bit more complicated because of Final 4 fire making. Like, you don't necessarily need to pick which pair to go with, but I would be intrigued to see where she goes there, because the Caroline Sue pairing is probably the closest one in the game. But, how much are you betting on yourself to, like, if you vote off Teeny at 5, then Andy's probably going to take you to the end. And is there a chance you're going to beat Caroline and Sue in a final immunity challenge? Like, there's a lot of interesting decisions to weigh in at that particular time.
Mm-hmm. Endgame is so tough. It's so tough. There's so many decisions and so tough because you're also gauging all of these external factors. Like we can talk about Andy with his math. We're trying to decide what the probability of, someone winning out. So then if you're thinking about the long game, you're trying to decide, okay, who can I beat, right? Or you're trying to make all of these sort of like small nuanced decisions. But I mean, Andy was making just Kyle had a 50-50 shot of winning. And I think that is a false assumption because Kyle had won more he'd won more than he had participated in. So I think he had a higher shot. I mean, I understand Andy's argument that his, quote unquote, Kyle's run is overrated. But I do think that he a little bit undersold that as well, though. I do think that, look, Kyle's not going to win out, but come on.
Yeah. And also, like, Kyle did get third and got the necklace on one challenge, to be fair. So it's not like he's also not invincible. So I kind of reduced the odds a bit too in that regard. But like I said, the more you vote people out, the less competitors Kyle has. So it kind of gets more odds he wins as people go on as well. So I don't think there's a lot of the 50-figure argument. Ignore that. That was just put in for the edit. Like that was not real math. But like I do like his approach, kind of like explain to people why. He also tried to get on his side. I love it. So maybe the math wasn't exactly fully sound, but it was a good argument tool. Although Caroline shut that down instantly, said like, "No, it's not." But it was funny to watch.
Yeah, I really go back and forth on this, and maybe it's just because like I'm talking with two people that are much more academically minded than myself. It always feels tough to me to like assign numbers when it comes to survivor strategy outside of like they have 6, we have 4, etc., etc. If anything has been made clear with like recent probabilistic structures, like people don't necessarily understand chances and probabilities. Like if there's a 75% chance of something that's happening, yes, that is more likely to happen than not, but still 1 out of 4 times that thing is going to happen. And so I think what occurs, unfortunately, is that when Andy throws out this 6.25%, whatever that may be, I think for them, it's just like, yeah, your logic may be there, but Survivor is much more a feelings game than a facts game in many ways. And so I think from Caroline's perspective, she's like, it feels a lot more than 6.25 just because he seems to do well at almost everything that ends up getting thrown our way. So yes, you could even be generous by giving him a coin flip odds of winning every single challenge from here on out. But that doesn't dispute the fact of like, what I feel about his chances moving forward and the fact that another chance for him to stay in the game, who knows if maybe they throw another idol out there and Kyle ends up finding him. Maybe he's able to worm his way in because he's just so darn genial with people to maybe keep him like they did with the Gabe vote. Or with the Saul vote. There's a lot of stuff that could be at play for me outside of like, oh, he has a chance of taking the necklace home. And while I think, to your point, Dwight, it's very fun to have someone come in with those statistics, and statistics can sometimes be something to help cement an argument. It just sometimes is not necessarily the game to do that when people can just respond with, yeah, but my gut is telling me this thing, and that's going to overwhelm the brain at the end of the day.
Yeah. Survivor is a game about your gut feeling. Like that's all we hear, right? Like, oh, I gotta trust my gut. I gotta go with my gut. I gotta, So look, they gotta vote the way that they think is the right way. So don't matter the math.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start getting into our talks on Kyle here, because definitely one of the more unique contestants we've had this season, if in the new era in general, just considering how down to the look, he seems like a guy that was plucked out of the teens, right? Between his blue collar lifestyle, between the fact that he had a tough time reconciling his emotions with playing the game, despite the fact that he said towards the end that he had the capacity to do so, between like, as Andy, I suppose, calls him being one-dimensional and only really relying on challenges and not much else to get further. So Liana, how much of a pulse did you have on this in the preseason when it came to Mr. Ostwald?
Yeah, this has been a brutal season for my predictions, but whatever, we're gonna stick with it. So I had Kyle pre-jury. I said that I know. I said that Kyle's affable
Really?
personality allows him to easily get along with almost all the members of his tribe. But unfortunately for Kyle, his good old boy shtick doesn't vibe with Gabe's ruthless gameplay.
You were so close.
I know. And, and Gabe identified Kyle as a social threat who could win over the other members of Tuku. Additionally, Kyle goes on a journey in the first few days of the season, drawing extra ire from Gabe. And then Kyle blesses us with several Kyle-isms, which particularly amuse Jeff. I think those are supposed to be like blue-collar phrases. I felt like Kyle was going to be like throwing out like...
Oh, you're expecting like the big brother like, I'm more sticky than
yes,
Badger and molasses.
exactly.
Oh,
yes, like
he's from Michigan, Liana.
That's the energy I got from Kyle, okay? They can have isms in Michigan, Mike, all right? I said that his ally was TK and his enemy was, of course, Gabe.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Villain of the
interesting. You
season.
were sort of
You got
describing
the ally
like,
right.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you were sort of describing the way that he talked to like Gabe sort of approached Kyle initially before he hired him to be his limo driver. So
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Well, and I obviously didn't think Kyle's gonna last that long. So I was like, yeah, that's the early dynamic. That totally fits.
So I had Kyle making the jury, a bit of loftier expectations for him. I said that Kyle's backstory is one of the first personal focuses of the season as he wakes up on day 2 with some struggles missing home. But he gets to watch the Fijian sunrise and that brightens his mood. Despite his early emotional struggles, Kyle's hard work ethic and leadership in building the shelter easily brings him into the majority on Tuku, where he's happy to just sit as a number. He's just Kyle, I think. Unfortunately, due to Tuku's winning streak and his lack of involvement in the strategy, he becomes one of the most purple players to make the post-merge. I tried the nickname Quile, parentheses, Quiet Kyle, and it goes about as well as expected. Kyle is devastated when he finds out he lost his closest ally, TK, in the Split Tribal Council. Though he says he's on the revenge path, it's like asking a dog to fly. He can try all he wants, but that's just not who he is. After winning a crucial immunity challenge to stave his execution, he's dispatched the minute he loses in one of the most straightforward votes of the season. His ally was TK, and his enemy, I wrote, no possible way he makes any.
Mm-hmm.
No enemies for Kyle. Of course not.
No. Sorry, you mean Quile.
Oh, Quile.
Oh, good old Quile.
Quile sounds like the name of a figure in Westeros, like the Master of Coin, Brigand Maester Quile.
Oh my gosh. Brutal.
All right, Dwight, it's on you. It's going to be a tough pickings, but who do you think was more accurate on Kyle here?
You know, it's very close. It's a tight call here, but I just might have to give this to Mike here.
I know,
He
it's
seems,
close.
a bit more accurate in every single aspect of his write-up. But maybe it's time, Liana.
We can still be friends, Dwight. I'll allow it.
Yay!
I'm so intrigued with obviously 50 incredibly on the horizon. I mean, we're entering December. It's probably going to be like 6 months away until we really start getting that cast together, if not starting to film. Again, Kyle is such an enigma, especially in the new era where it feels like the show is more cutthroat than ever, more meta than ever. I wonder how much he might have a bearing on 50 casting. Like, I know Jeff infamously said in an interview, I think back in the beginning, to an outlet like, oh, we're considering a player for 50. It's led a lot of people to speculate, like, okay, could it be Andy? Could it be Teeny? Could it be Sue? Et cetera, et cetera. Liana, what do you think the chances are of Kyle possibly getting a look here, considering not only, again, how different he is in a bit of a throwback to old school Survivor, but especially the ovation he received on and a bit off island in getting the boot?
Well, I think for me, the reason to go for Kyle would be because his energy just feels so different. And if you're only going to cast new era people, I mean, Kyle, who else? Because even people who are maybe in like a similar vein still don't have sort of this like wholesomeness. Like Kyle just feels so wholesome. That being said, to me personally, it's a bit boring. So I don't know. I think that there's definitely a possibility that it happens, but I don't think that he would necessarily be the top of my list coming out of this season.
What about you, Dwight?
Kind of similar vein to Liana. Like I could see them doing it because also they gave him that backstory today about he has the capacity to lie, deceive, etc. They didn't really show that. So it could be for a second chance of he's a really good challenge beast. We already seen that, but give him the opportunity or like give him a second chance to kind of do that deception line, leaning into that a bit more. See if he actually is capable of doing that or not. But that might be more of a like a second chance kind of season. Not I think 50 is being built up as like celebration of the whatever, like celebration or whatever. I don't think it's so much of a second chance thing. If it is, I think that definitely is the argument to be made to put him on season. But if it's not second chance, more so just like a pseudo all stars kind of season, not so much a second chance. Maybe put like 1, 2 second chance folks on there. It might be very tough to fit him onto that cast. But yeah, the second chances kind of thing for sure. I love that.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see if he is considered in the same boat as Jonathan, which is wild because like Kyle looks like Steve Rogers before the super soldier serum, and then after is Jonathan from a physicality perspective. But like, it does feel like they kind of fit the same wheelhouse of like both, one of the best challenge performers in their season, maybe not the biggest strategists, big providers at camp. And yes, there are nuances contained therein, but as much as I thought Jonathan occupied his own space from 42 through 47, there might be a bit of a challenge from, again, more of an obtuse casting perspective in what Kyle brings. Though I do agree with you, Liana. I think that maybe Kyle's like more inward facing. I wouldn't even say lower energy, just, a little bit more like particularly placed than the out and loud presences that exist even with somebody like Jonathan would probably be one of the bigger things to take away from his chances of playing. Again, especially in something like 50, where Jeff talked about it. They want joy, they want the verve, they want all the energy that they can bring. And not to say that Kyle couldn't, it's just that his is more of like an NPR type of energy versus like the Z Morning Zoo energy that some of these other new era contestants provide.
But then I think that that could be an argument, to bring him back, that you need that kind of balance. And if he does have sort of a desire to come back and change up his gameplay style, then I think that that could be another reason why. I think what I wouldn't want to happen is like we just bring Kyle back because Kyle's got like chill energy and that's it. And then Kyle comes back and Kyle's again. And then that's about it. Like I would want Kyle, I want to hear from Kyle, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do differently this time. Not necessarily that you have an axe to grind or that you have something to prove, but just here's how I'm going to change up how I would play so that we at least have a little bit of a fresh take, keep the same energy, what was it? Yeah, drop the boring, keep the energy, just change it like a little bit, right?
Yeah, I'm very intrigued because again, it's something that we are on the precipice for, and again, as much as to your point, Liana, his own energy as he left was completely different from anyone this season, let alone anyone from the new era in quite some time. Like, we have people sitting on the jury being like, wow, what a guy. So, especially if they do a new era heroes versus villains, I might go so far as to say like Kyle would be one of the chalk picks as like a new era hero.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
for
100%.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. That would be so fun. I don't know who they would pick, right? Especially with the whole, we're not really doing villains anymore. So
unless they cast them and then they say, like, oh, you're the villains now. We've determined it.
We've decided. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, so I think let's move into our activity for today. Rachel unscrambled some balls. So let's see if the two of you can unscramble some words. We are going to be playing anagrams today. So I have taken the full names of the Survivor contestants from the season and rearranged them all up. So I will and I've also used the full name, by the way. So like we have a lot of TKs and Sauls and Roams, etc. So I have taken their full name. So like TK is Taryn, by the way.
Okay.
So I would recommend for both of you to pull up a list. That can be very helpful. The Wikipedia page, for example, to see their full name, because I did not remember anybody's last name and I did this game. So
okay, I'd say, because I was actually going to bring something up here, because
right.
obviously we are experiencing, you know, some small technical difficulties here. Dwight
Yes.
is away from home. Maybe to even the playing field, I don't look at the list, because I imagine this is going to be timing based and buzzing in.
Yes.
Can I handicap myself by not being able to have the names in front of me?
You can do that. The other option is that, because normally it's a free-for-all, right? You just sort of buzz in. The other thing we could do is each person gets essentially a 15-second head start. So I would throw it to Mike. You have 15 seconds. If you don't get it in, 15 seconds, then Dwight can pop in.
But then the weight falls into the ocean and it gets dragged away from me.
And it gets dragged away. Exactly. Well, that's what happened to Rachel. There was a time thing on it. So yeah, Mike, you can't look at the list and you have a delay.
Okay. I'm good with that. Listen.
Okay.
This is, weight training for me, so that it feels like nothing but a breeze once I inevitably climb the Mount Everest that is like the Grandmaster game you have on my path eventually.
Yes, exactly. Okay, perfect.
I'm not gonna look at list. I'm not gonna look at list either. I don't have a second monitor, so I'm just gonna just memory too. No list. Why not? We'll just see how it goes.
After all that.
It was like, yeah, I'm not gonna do it either. Okay, well,
listen, you still have the timer, okay? I just want to challenge myself, okay? I want to see how I do without the list, and if I regret
You're
this,
such
I'll
a new
regret
era
it.
player, Dwight. You're like, I'm not here. I'm here to learn about myself. I'm here to challenge myself. I've been wanting this since I was 5 to do anagrams.
I can't escape it. The island changed me, okay? I'm a different person now.
Okay. Do whatever you want. It's, challenge yourself. Sure, go on a journey. Okay, so I think let's test this out. Let's actually start with Dwight. Okay, so Dwight, I'm gonna read you the scrambled version of a contestant's name, and then you can guess who you think it is. I will keep the timer, and essentially, Mike, I'll let you know when you can give your guess if you'd like to participate. Okay. So let's see how this goes. Is it
first and last name or just first name? I forgot to ask. Is it first and last?
Oh my god! Imagine it was just first name.
No, it's first and last name. That's why I said look at the list.
This next one is Los.
Yeah. Like, what are we gonna do for Sue? It's just Sue.
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 UES for Upper East Side.
Okay. Anyways. Okay. Start. Okay. We get it.
All right.
I'm done.
Whatever.
I love this. I love this so much.
It's all about the journey, not the destination. So let's go on a trip.
Don't say journey.
Okay, sorry. Okay. All right, Dwight, this is for you. Okay, Dwight, you ready? Okay. So your
I'm ready.
set is Alas, the Pink. Alas, the Pink. I can give you another one. Alpha
Kishan Patel.
Yes. Oh, you had 1 second left. Okay.
Wow.
Congratulations, Dwight. And you did know his last name. I'm very impressed.
I mean, he had a presence in this episode. I did not realize how much the Kishan vote broke Genevieve. That she has this flashback to him whispering. I mean, we talked about, people having very memorable reactions to their exits. Kishan might have been a very low-key one, considering that he changed the course of how Genevieve thought about Survivor with his I trusted you and you did this to me.
It was the ghost of Keyshawn. It was so creepy. He's there haunting. All right, so Mike, this one is for you. Plasma hen.
Plasma
hen.
Plasma hen.
I can give you another one.
Sure.
Anal hemps.
Oh, you should have started with anal hemps.
All right, Dwight, you can guess if you know it. Anal
Sam
hemps.
Palin.
Yes, I got it. Yeah, sorry, Sam. He had a lot of good ones. Men Alphas, Napalm She, Shame Plan, which is pretty good.
Men Alpha, I think, is the reason why he's being considered a threat right now.
Exactly. All right, Dwight, we're going back to you. Here is your anagram. Llama has unity. Llama has unity. Your second one is Alias Manly Hut. Mike, you can participate.
Okay.
Alias Manly Hunt. Or Llama has unity.
Is no.
What? Am I dumb?
Llama has unity.
Oh, it's a Tiana Hallams.
Yes, Mike, that is correct.
Yeah.
The Y gave it away.
Never would have remembered her last name. So, congratulations. All right. Our score is 2-1. Dwight is currently winning, and we are going to go to Mike for this next one. So, Mike, here is your anagram. Cadaver Lion Rim.
Lion Rim?
Cadaver Lion Rim.
Oh, that
Or perhaps Maniac Rod Liver. Dwight, you can participate if you so choose. Cadaver Lion Rim, Maniac Rod Liver. Or perhaps you prefer Animal Cod River.
I do prefer Animal Cod River. I love cod.
What about Icon Diver Alarm?
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah. Maniac Rod.
Wow, these are interesting to me.
Is it Caroline Vidmar?
Oh, Caroline Vidmar.
Dwight actually
Did you get it
probably
first?
said it first. I heard it first from Mike.
How much is my delay? I said a second before him on my end. Okay, whatever.
That's okay, Dwight, because we're going to go back to you. Now you have the opportunity to get this. So if you can do it in 15 seconds, it's all yours. Okay, so here is your anagram. After Snorter. After Snorter. Or Forest Ranter.
Forest Ranger?
Ranter. Okay, Mike, you can participate if you know who it is.
Okay.
After Snorter.
Is it Taryn Foster?
It is. His full name is Taryn Foster. It is TK. Terran.
And when he was going on and on about how people should have better attitudes after challenges, I mean, he wasn't in the forest, but he was certainly ranting a lot.
Yeah, he was a ranter in the forest, perhaps. Okay. So, Mike, we are going to go back to you for this next one. And your anagram is Oily Moons.
Oily Moons?
Oily Moons. Or perhaps Noisily Moo. Noisily Moo.
Rome Cooney.
That is incorrect. Dwight, you have the ability to steal.
Oh.
So, Oily Moons. I sound so weird. Oily Moons. Or Noisily Moo. Dwight, do you have an answer?
I'm so bad at this. I should just look at the list.
You got 2 points right off the bat. What do you mean you're bad at this?
How about yo, no limos?
Solomon Yee.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it was Saul. Because again, like I said, I used his full name. Okay, so we are all tied up. We have 3 points for Mike and 3 points for Dwight. We are, I believe, okay, we're going back to Dwight. All right. So, Dwight, this is for you. Hellcat Manor.
Woo! I want to live there.
Hellcat Manor. Hellcat Manor. Or perhaps
Rachel Lamont.
marathons. Yes, that was correct. Rachel.
Imagine
Lamont.
Rachel living in a place called Hellcat Manor.
Hellcat Manor. She also
Oh,
had.
that's so sick.
That'd be very cool. Marathon Cell and Cheat Man Roll. I thought those were all pretty good. Okay, Mike, we're going to go back to you. Here is your anagram. Ed Slow Talkie.
Ed Slow Talkie?
Slow Talkie. Or perhaps Walk Old Sty. Okay, Dwight, would you like to participate?
Asia Welch.
That is incorrect.
Oh, okay. Can you read the anagrams again?
Yes. Ed Slow
I
Talkie.
That's what it is.
Ed Slow Talkie.
Ed Slow Talkie.
I heard.
Okay. Is it
Delta?
Oh, Kyle Ostwald?
Yes, that is correct. That's where the W came from.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle's last name.
I heard a Y. I'm just like Asia. I was like, wait, no, am I stupid?
Yeah, I know. I have the same
just
logic where
ignored everything
I work my way through the boot list, sort of talking about my own internal logic. And so every time I hit the Y, I'm like, oh, it's Asia. And then I forget that so many other people have Ys in their name this season.
Yes! I thought we got rid of all the Ys and this one. Like, oh, it's this time for sure. Ignore everything else. I heard a Y. Here we are.
Gotta be Asia. Gotta be Asia. All right, but that's okay, Dwight. So we're going back to you. This will be your first opportunity to answer. Here is your anagram. Rig right hash. No, rig right rash.
Rig right rash.
Rig right rash.
Can we pitch that being the new outwit, outplay, outlast?
Yes. You need to rig, right, and rash. Or perhaps we could pitch hair grew stir. Grew hair
Sierra Wright.
stir. That is correct. Yes.
Oh, so the W was silent in Wright, like a Wright brother.
Yes, W.
Yeah, it was the other Wright.
Or David Wright,
The other Wright, not the, yeah. Okay. Mike, if you get this one right, you will tie up the game and we will go to a tiebreaker.
Ooh.
So let's see if you can get got rabies.
That's it? Got rabies?
Rabies.
Got
rabies.
That's all? Just got rabies?
Got rabies. All right, Dwight, you can participate if you would like.
Wait,
Ortiz.
Yes. No, I heard it from Dwight first. I heard it from Dwight first.
Aha!
You got revenge on the delay for me.
Exactly. Well, congratulations, Dwight. Even with the delay, you were able to beat Mike. A few others for those who we didn't read their anagrams. I made them for all of them. So Asia, that you were all trying to guess. Asia had Clash Yeehaw. Which I thought was quite
I think that's
fun.
what you thought would be one of the Kyleisms of like, Kyle, how'd you be on the show? This is the real Clash. Yeehaw!
Clash Yeehaw. You know what they say. It's burning as bright as a Clash Yeehaw. John Lovett was Jet Loon TV, which was pretty fun. Genevieve has a lot of letters to play with. So one of hers was Avenue Give Me Hulks. Which I love to drive on Avenue Give Me Hulks.
Mm-hmm.
Sue, opposite spectrum, not a lot to play with. So Sue's was I Must or Seize Yum.
Oh, I like that one. It's like, okay, what do you want to do for the reward challenge? I've got to seize yum.
I seize yum.
Oh, I thought you meant like you're silly. They're talking like a pirate. I seize yum.
I seize yum. Teeny says choleric rich nihilist. A little bit of a tongue twister. Or cirrhotic chili shine.
Oh, I like that.
Or my personal favorite is chronicler I shit chili.
Oh no, that's bad.
I know.
Should they serve chili on the island, or is that going to cause the very
No,
outcome you're imagining?
absolutely not.
Yeah, no. Andy's unread day or dandy-urea. Annika, not a ton from her, not a lot of letters
Right.
to play with, but aha, I drank, which I thought was very funny.
So this is again this pirate talking character.
Yeah.
Like, ha, 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 I
Yeah.
drink.
Yeah. And then Rome or Jerome Cooney, once Joey Moore, or come jeer, yo on. I don't know. Anyway.
I mean,
So-
come jeer is what he was saying when he makes certain posts about booting people from RHAP on Survivor.
Come jeer on yo. All right. Well, we unscrambled those. Dwight, I'm genuinely impressed. Not looking at the list, having the delay, that was very, very impressive. But Mike, you too as well. It was a really, really close game. It came down to seconds for two of those answers, and it was a close score of 6-4.
Well, thank you, Liana, as always, for coming
That was
up with
fun.
these
Yeah, thank you so
brilliant
much.
ones, for backdooring another pirate-themed season. Though I mean, Jeff, like, sometimes speaks in a pirate voice. He's recently spoken in British accent, which I feel like is pirate adjacent.
Is it?
I mean, have you met any pirates that weren't British with British accents?
What?
You bring up a good point.
Like, all the
Got me beat.
pirates we know speak with British accents.
I guess so. So Jeff is just one step removed from talking in pirate talk, which
I'm just saying, yeah,
actually
every
here for.
every British dialect is like one eye patch removed from
One
being a pirate.
peg leg removed. from
Yeah,
being a
exactly. Just
pirate.
remove one leg and drop
You're
the
already
leg.
Thank you
there.
for your wisdom, Mike.
Drop the leg, keep the eye.
Oh, brutal.
And then, you know, I feel like they were kind of keel hauling as well, that podium, which the pirates used to do back in the day as well, dragging them underwater. Like, that poor podium that didn't deserve it, Jeff, and you
Exactly.
you drowned it for no
Got-
good
Is
reason.
that podium?
Thrown
No,
overboard.
was the podium attached to this thing? Like, are they gonna drag it back up, or did it just say, "All right, cool, that's gone forever"? Like, was it attached
Okay.
to the podium? Like, could they bring it back?
The balls definitely fell out of the thing.
Yeah.
I thought. So I
thought so too.
So
but the platform, I think, like, or the the actual wooden thing, I think, was attached.
yeah,
right?
so there's a story on Fire, of course, about like how this entire contrivance, delightfully so, ended up coming about. And part of it was that initially they wanted to just throw one anchor over and like give them a specific amount of time. And so for that, they actually had to send out the dive team to like scout out possible locations to be able to retrieve the anchor, because despite the fact that they take up, you know, pretty permanent residence in Fiji 6 months out of the year, they try to use the national park motto of like, leave things better than how you found them. So they had to find a place where they could recover everything and not just leave a bunch of colorful balls floating through the Pacific Ocean willy-nilly.
Just leave the garbage.
Okay.
Yeah, like, imagine like it didn't take place that far away from the beach, and so it's like, Rachel, you're absolutely lying, and then a bunch of balls just wash up on shore.
They probably believe her then, at least.
Yeah.
A little too late, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, it would be the Twilight Zone irony, right? Of like, we voted Rachel out, such a ridiculous story, and then like the placard with the information on it washes up on the beach the next day.
Yeah, exactly. Oof.
Oh God.
All right, well, Dwight, we are going to submerge ourselves into a charity or cause that you want to highlight for the listeners out there of the B&B. What should people give their time and possibly money to from your perspective?
So I said, I will always sponsor St. Jude Children's Hospital from Memphis. I think that's always a good cause to look into, give back to help children that need medical support. But also recently, Trans Lifeline is an organization that helps trans people in the community. Been friend of mine, Brando's been doing a lot of stuff for them recently, and I believe there's like an Instagram. It's happening on the day of filming, but some Survivor alum are doing like a Instagram live for I forget exactly what organization it's for, but it's like supporting trans lives in general. Might not be Trans Lifeline, but something in general. So you just want to give that shout out as well. If you're seeing this, maybe go back and watch the live if you can, because it's happening as the day we're filming. But yeah, those are the two things that mainly important today.
Yeah, to highlight that a bit more, because I actually just had Dr. Evie Jagoda on TV for Real as well to plug this. I think it's Trans Futures, I believe, is the charity. Okay. And so, yeah, we're obviously, it's going on right now from a live stream perspective. A bunch of alumni are coming on as well as some RHAP podcasters. You can text Trans Futures, all one word, to 44321 to make a donation at any time. So, yeah, absolutely. Be sure to do that. Support, of course, Evie and all the great work they're doing, as well as all the alumni that are popping on with that. Dwight, thank you so much. Amidst your Thanksgiving celebrations, amidst a delay, you did not delay in coming on and bringing the absolute fire as you usually do. What would you like to plug? Of course, we are approaching a new month for the holiday season, but you're never going to stop streaming these games that we all love to play. So what do you have on deck for December?
Yeah, just regular streaming Clock Tower Saturday and Monday. Typically, Saturday will be with the RJP crew and some of the alumni from Survivor or other shows, and reach out to more people. Hopefully, get some more new people to try it out pretty soon. I know some people have been playing recently that are new to the game, so hoping to get on stream sometime. But I do that on Twitch. The username is Doing More. More is in my last name. And then the Jude stuck with Puya and RGP crew on Sundays. So that's where I stream, and that's kind of, yeah. I'm Twitter, Instagram. I post on occasion. Let's be real. I'm not a social media guy. Just Twitch. Follow me on Twitch. That'll mean most to me. But yeah, been doing that a lot. So yeah, come check out Clock Tower. There's a video on RJP of us playing Clock Tower, and I think another might come out in a month or so as well. So those are some edited videos for you guys to enjoy of that game.
Okay. Yeah, more survivors playing hardcore head games on the horizon. Who from this 47 cast would you like to see play Blood on the Clock Tower, either for good or maybe for not so good?
Genevieve, Caroline, Rachel, I think for sure. I know I want to reach out to. I need to figure out who else would enjoy, but I feel like those three would be like the gamer type who would enjoy Clock Tower in the first place, and other people might just want to try it out. But those like the first three that came to mind. Just like I want to see them try it out, see how they do with it.
Yeah, I do think that maybe if we're not going to have a live reunion, the next best thing we could get, Dwight, is for you to get as many cast members from one season on a postseason game of like a Blood on the Clock Tower together, and just see them all kind of hash it out there. You know, maybe that's where they kind of let those grudges bleed out on the battlefield, or they're able to catch up with each other in a public setting. You know, if they're not going to get covered from the production perspective, we could do it ourselves under the guise of this very heady game.
Exactly. Oh, also, Asia, because I've messaged Asia about this so many times, but obviously during filming she can't do it. But I'm just like, Clock Tower, please. I'm just like, wait, this season's airing. Because I'll forget. I messaged the podcast. I'm just like, wait, I literally can't get her on right now. So I need to get Asia in the Clock Tower desperately. This is my life goal at this point. So.
All right. Well, Dwight, I wish you all the best on your life goals, both immediate and long term. I guess I should say that more often to people, as I wish you the best of luck on your life goals. Feels very Kyle, right? Of like, gotta give it $120, do well on your life goals.
It's so formal. I wish you the best of luck on your future endeavors.
Yeah,
exactly. Am
I getting fired? What is this? Sounds like I'm getting fired.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like we're never going to talk to you again. Like, all right, good luck.
Yeah. I was like, guys, are you blocking my number after this? Am I done?
Yeah. Never,
like,
never.
Okay, leave.
Yeah.
Get out.
Well, Liana, you are soon to be breaking up with the Masked Singer as we are careening towards the end game. They're ending before Survivor?
Let's see. We have, I believe, so we definitely have 3 episodes left. So that would end us on the 18th.
Okay, yeah. So and listen, it'll be a bit of an earlier night for people. It'll be only a 2-hour final episode, so that's plenty of time to squeeze it in. Plenty of time to hear you and Puya break it all down.
That's right. Yes, we just covered the Group C finals, so we're going into the quarterfinals, semis, and then the eventual finals. So just 3 more episodes for us to wrap up the season. But it's always a good time, and stay on the lookout for new things to come.
Okay, I wish you the best of luck in those those life goals.
Yeah, those 5 goals. Just tearing it up.
You can follow Liana at Lianaism on
Yes,
Blue Sky, right?
Yeah.
And you can follow me there at a Mike Bloom type. I mentioned it before, due to the holiday, talking with Kyle on Monday. Very excited to not only get his opinions about things, but I think there are some questions that need to be answered with some things that have been maybe said about him in other interviews. So I'm excited to get Kyle's side of the story about that and just to talk to him in general. He seems like he's an incredibly genuine, genial guy. And I'm excited to not only have him on our screens, but to have him on my screen tomorrow to discuss everything that happened with this game. Other than that, all the usual things that are going on my end. And the last thing I want to say is that I'm very thankful for this podcast. You know, as we are coming out of a long weekend with Thanksgiving, this probably would have been like the best episode to have on while you're kind of distracted by your family members and other Michigans going on in the background. And look, it's fine. As I mentioned before, sometimes Survivor episodes are like this, but no matter what, I really do enjoy this cast. And I think they're going to provide a meal, no matter what the caloric, amount of it might be, for a month and a half, every single week. Month and a half, an hour and a half every single week. Maybe the last episode felt like a month and a half at certain points when we're doing that, like a little bit tipsy challenge with spelling out the words. But I certainly am not immune from misappropriating my definitions here. And next week, we will be joined by Mari Forth to once again talk about, surprisingly, the last pre-finale, technically speaking, episode of Survivor. Not the penultimate one, because again, we have this 2-part 4-hour finale, but we will get our several place boot. We will see if it will indeed just be one of Genevieve or Sam. It looks like Andy is continuing to pull an Andy and maybe cause some chaos along the way. If the already cemented majority will have their own uprising from within, as we have probably like a week left basically in game of stuff. So you could tell a lot of people already have day 26 on their minds, and we're happy to have the B&B on your mind as you make your way out of this long holiday weekend into whatever happens next. Oh, and Dwight, you will be in Houston, right, as well for the RHAP event?
Yes, I will be there. So I'm excited to see everybody there. It should be fun.
Yeah, so give Dwight a hey if you're there, or a howdy if you're in Texas. I hear that's how they talk, Liana.
That's right. I mean, you're asking the experts, so.
Classic Kyleism there. But I hope
right.
everyone has a great time there on Wednesday. We'll be back Sunday with Mari to break down the third to last episode of Survivor 47. Send us any game ideas. We have but a few weeks left, but we're still accepting of anything you may send our way. RHAPBNB@gmail.com or #RHAPBNB on social media. Special thanks to the entire RHAP team behind the scenes for packaging this podcast for your eyes and ears, and Wolf from America for his fantastic theme song, which you can listen to in the audio version of this podcast. We'll be back next week with Mari Forth discussing episode 12. But until then, everybody, best of luck with your life goals, and we'll check you out at your next stay.